All right, guys. Welcome back to Actual Mormons. It's been a while. It's been a couple months since we've filmed our last episode. I've been dealing with some sickness on my end, and I think we've both been pretty busy. But it's good to be back. Hopefully, we're back to weekly, bi-weekly episodes here soon. So, how you doing, Jacob?
Doing excellent. Good to be back.
Good. I've been out of the apologist space for a couple months now, so I might be out of the loop on some of the recent stuff. But a while back, we planned on doing a video ranking LDS apologists, which isn't going to be controversial at all. I figured why don't we just go with that? So, you have any thoughts before we pull it up and just start ranking our friends?
Nope, let's upset some people.
Well, good. I've taken quite a step back from the apologist online community, so now's the time, I guess. Here's the tier list. We got quite a few folks in here. I know we're probably missing a few here and there, but these are some of the people who've kind of put themselves online, have wrote books, or have podcasts, write articles, just a variety of places across the LDS apologetic content creation. So, starting out at the top of the list is Connor. I always struggle to say his last name. Do you know how to say his last
Connor
name?
Boyack.
Boyack. Connor Boyack. You probably know more about him than I do, don't you?
Yeah. I've been friends on Facebook with him since high school. So since like 2012, 2013. That was back in the 2012 election, and Ron Paul was getting pretty popular among Latter-day Saints at that time. And so I had some siblings that were kind of into that craze, and so Connor Boyack was the resident LDS libertarian that everyone would go to, and still is in many ways. I remember there was Rand Paul was doing a filibuster that lasted 13 hours, and
I remember
Connor said that anyone who guesses the correct time that this filibuster will take will get a free copy of my book, Latter-day Responsibility. And I was the one that guessed right. And so I got his book. And so, I've read it. It's a decent book. Honestly, I'm partial to some tenets of libertarianism, but I think that they're just trying to take the teachings of guys like Friedrich Bastiat and Ayn Rand and trying to Mormonize it, I guess. When in reality, both of those people were atheists, and so I don't think that a lot of stuff they taught is conducive to the gospel. But Connor does some good stuff. He advocates for some good laws in Utah, and I think his influence is a net positive, although I think he's a little too radical for my taste.
Yeah. I didn't know he's a libertarian. I consider myself, if I had to put a name on my politics, to be a progressive libertarian. So that's cool.
He's a conservative libertarian, so socially conservative, okay. But
so we'd probably still disagree on quite a bit.
Yeah.
He runs what's that company he runs? It's like a children's books or what?
He runs Libertas. That's like the think tank that he runs. But he also writes some books called the Tuttle Twins. They're like
the Tuttle Twins.
They're supposed to teach kids about history and political theory in a very digestible way.
He's a polygamy denier, isn't he?
That's what I hear.
That's what I've been hearing through the. That's what I've been hearing through the grapevine. I don't know if it's true or not, but he hasn't. I haven't seen that he's denied it, and he's been on Michelle Stone's podcast. And yeah, I don't know if he is a polygamy denier. That's you lose a couple points right there. But
yep,
yeah,
he's a smart guy, but he's a bit ideologically possessed in some areas.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'd probably put him in D. I don't know. Where would you put him?
Yeah, a D.
Probably D. we'll get a reference for where people will be as we go on. So we can move people
I
around.
did do a C or a D because I like what he does, but I don't know how much he does in defending the church. It's more like defending his libertarian version of the gospel, but he mostly does political advocacy.
Yeah. And we're trying to rank people between a combination of like how good their arguments are in defending the church, how charismatic they are, how like well researched it is, how much they can simplify the quality of their content. Just like it's like a general overview. So next up is Dan Peterson. I think this one's fairly obvious where he should go. But what do you think?
He's very top.
Very top, right? Yep. All the way up in S tier. He is. We don't need to say much about Dan Peterson. He's maybe the most popular, most renowned apologist in the church. Yeah. All of his speeches that I've listened to, the podcasts he's been on, have been insightful. He has a good way of like taking complex ideas. At least in writing, sometimes it can get a little more complex than I like. But when he's like speaking on podcasts and stuff, he can simplify things really well. And he can like highlight portions of like evidences for the church that a lot of people haven't thought of and make it really simple to understand and really convincing. So yeah, I like Dan Peterson quite a bit. And he seems like he's a good guy based on everything I've seen. I haven't ever seen him be like toxic online. Yeah. I like him too. He's debated the atheist Michael Shermer. You can find that debate on YouTube. He's also debated James White. I think it was back in the 90s. You can find that on the Fair YouTube channel. And I think him and Bill Hamblin debated James White. And I think they beat him pretty soundly, in my opinion. They discuss sola scriptura and evidences for the Book of Mormon. Not a very well-known debate, but I think that they came out on top on that one. I wish we had cameras back then and the production that we have now, because that would be really entertaining to have video of. But the audios, I think Fair Mormon has the audio published in like 5 different parts on their channel.
Yep.
David Snell. I like David Snell quite a bit. I think he is one of the best things for the church right now. Just a peaceful guy who makes quality, simple content that's really high quality, really well researched. It's not overly in depth. It's not overly, but it's also not like it's not sugar coated or whitewashed. It's very blunt, straightforward. I think David Snell is top of the top. What do you think?
Yeah. He's the Hank Green of Mormonism. I don't know if you know who he is, but basically like the crash courses that Hank Green would do just on any subject, just like these 5-10 minute videos or break down like a subject in history or in psychology, the social sciences, biology. David Snell is really good at that, breaking down a very complex subject into like a very compact video. And it has really very well sourced in the show notes. I think my favorite one is the one on creation ex nihilo, where he just breaks down why the LDS view on that isn't, it's out of step with mainstream Christianity. It's not out of step with mainstream biblical scholarship. And that was an excellent video.
Yeah. Yeah, he's done incredible. Like, I don't know, there are like 200, 300 faith and beliefs videos.
Yeah.
Incredible
if
stuff.
It weren't for the faith and beliefs videos, Saints Unscripted would be mid.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna just because I'm out of this world now, Saints Unscripted outside of faith and beliefs, I cannot deal with it. Like every single host on there, I just feel like I want to smack them. I don't know. They just feel too trendy, too Gen Z, like I blow dry my hair for 30 minutes in the morning, like style. I just give me a real human being who like is passionate. Like Kwaku has his issues where he's super aggressive and can be create a lot of drama. But at least he was like really passionate and like energetic and made it exciting to watch. I don't know. There's a couple of the hosts that I like the I don't remember their name, but the blonde girl, she's pretty cool. And then I think I can't remember the other one's names, but for the most part, I cannot really listen to their non-faith and beliefs videos.
Some of them are good, like when they interview scholars, like they interviewed Ben
Yeah,
Spackman, who we'll talk about later. But I will
yeah,
say this about David Snell is that I've personally interacted with him on like a Discord channel that we're both are part of or used to be a part of. That I remember talking to him. I'm like, yeah, David, like you're just in the privacy. You're in privacy. You're among friends. If you want to talk crap about people that have been bothering you, this is the place to do it. And because he's just so nice to people in public, I'm just like, you're among friends, so if you want to let loose here, go ahead. And he's just like, well, I just don't want to say anything about people that I wouldn't say to them to their face. And I'm just like,
yeah. He's a good guy.
okay, just
Like,
make me feel like a terrible person. Okay.
yeah, he's definitely cream of the crop. Like, like good person, good researcher. It's we're fortunate to have someone like him who's, although they haven't made an episode in quite a while, a Faith and Beliefs episode, but
The
hopefully he's
last one
still.
was on whether Joseph Smith could actually qualify as a martyr. I
Yeah,
think that was the
and it was a
last
couple
one.
months ago. Do you know what happened? Is he just on a break, or have they said anything?
No,
Hmm.
no, he actually contacted me a little while ago to see how we were doing since we hadn't made a video in a while, and he never indicated that he was
Taking a
busy or
break.
anything. I don't know.
Maybe
Maybe
they're. I know they're recently going through rebranding stuff over there. Like they separated their channel in some different categories, so maybe it's just kind of part of that.
yeah.
Who knows? All right. Well, yeah, David's great. Next up, I'm gonna break up the S tiers a little bit here. Hayden Carroll.
Hidden Carol.
I look. Hayden has really high highs and really low lows, in my opinion. Some of his like views on the conception of Jesus and the young Earth and
He believes in young
works
Earth.
and grace. I think he's pretty young Earth. He's like hesitant on like a I remember I was having an argument and he was like kind of hesitant on like a global flood. The way he engages, how he just like you try to argue and he'll just like ask like 5 questions instead of like responding to anything you say, makes me want to punch a hole in the wall when I'm talking with him. It's incredibly frustrating. But then you have moments where he like went to the conference with all the evangelicals in Utah, and he like gave his speech, which was really good. There was a couple things that I think were a little bit I wouldn't have done, but for the most part, it was a really good speech. So I don't know. I'd probably throw him next to Connor Boyack. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. His highest, like his best, was his debate against Apologia. Him and Jacob
Oh,
Hansen.
with Jacob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
thought he
he's
did a
just
good job there.
it's just his style of Mormonism is just a little, it's not for me. For other people it works with, it's just I'm not all about it. So next up, Don Bradley.
He's S tier.
I think S tier, easy S tier. Incredible
Yep.
researcher. Good person. Yeah, you have anything to say about him?
No, like it's great because it seems like he's a progmo, and I definitely have problems with progmos, probably more so than you do. But
I'm kind of a progmo, so
yeah, just on social issues, and so he. But I have respect for progmos that still like passionately believe in the central truth claims of the church, because a lot of progmos like they just throw the baby out with the bathwater, and
yeah.
they don't believe in the truth claims, and they don't support the church's teachings in regarding like social issues and stuff. Um, where so I really respect his work and what he's done.
Yeah, he's great, and I love how transparent he is, and more so than a lot of other like really top tier researchers and apologists. I just feel like anytime he's on podcasts, he never sugarcoats anything. He's very straightforward. He rips the Band-Aid right off with any controversial issues. It's very transparent. Like, yeah, I think he's great. He's great for the church. Easy S tier. Garrett Dirkmatt. I know you've listened to their podcast quite a bit more than I have. Do you have any
Oh
insight
yeah,
on him?
he's S tier, definitely. The Standard of Truth podcast, I recommend that to anyone who is who just wants to learn about church history. He's really funny too. Like him and his friend, I forgot the guy's name. He doesn't really do anything except like kind of just comedic relief. Really asks questions, but it's an excellent podcast. I've learned a lot from it. He's very involved in the Joseph Smith Papers project and just very knowledgeable. It just helped me realize that like pretty much anything, any scandalous thing in church history, things that a lot of ex-Mormons and critics say like you can't access unless you read the CES letter or D. Michael Quinn or some like critical church historian, like pretty much all of it has been covered by faithful historians like him, like Garrett
Yeah.
Dirkmott, like Don Bradley, like Richard Bushman. You can learn all about the troubling parts of church history from faithful historians, especially
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Good stuff. Greg with Quick Media. To be honest, I don't love Greg. I don't know what it is about him. I just don't connect with a lot of the stuff he says. Also, his Heartlander kind of promotion stuff drives me crazy. He was going through for a while there. His Tim
Yeah.
Ballard defense for way too long.
Well, once all this stuff came out about Tim
Once
Ballard, he was very
he got
level headed
better.
about it and
Yeah.
did not try to defend him. He's a clear thinker, despite his like gravitation towards Heartlanderism. He's a clear
Yeah.
thinker, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, especially when it comes to like critical race theory and stuff like that. That's where he's at his best, is when it comes
Like
to
social
critiquing the
commentary stuff.
social commentary. I would
Yeah.
put him in as a C tier just because
Okay.
of that. Because
I
that's a
remember one thing you said a while back when the church was going through the financial things. He on his podcast he said something like, he thought it was disingenuous to say that the church was hiding their money, and it was better to say that they were just making it hard to find. And I remember some Exmos like making fun of him on TikTok over that because it was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life. Like I don't know if his point, like he communicated it well there, like he might have had a good point behind it, but the way he phrased it sounded just so
yeah.
ridiculous. It cracked me up. But
He
yeah, I agree with your. He does seem like a pretty clear thinker. I just a couple of his arguments and his way he leans on some issues makes him down a little bit for me. But
his political and social commentary is where he's at his best, because not many Latter Day Saints are addressing that issue, and it needs to be
yeah,
addressed.
yeah, I'm with you there. Stephen Smoot. For me, so Stephen Smoot, he's an interesting case for me. Him and there's like a squad in here. They're like Stephen, there's Boylan, there's Allen, and there's Roach. And they're like this
Yeah,
four like squad of like almost like jocks. I don't know. I don't understand it, but on Facebook they're like a bully group. Like they'll gang up and just like roast and insult people. And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
well,
what are you
some of
guys
those people
doing?
deserve it, but
Yeah, some of them just, but like some of the things that we can get to some of the crazy things I've heard out of some of these other ones' mouths later, but I don't know. Smoot has really freaking good arguments. He's really, really smart. He probably deserves to be at the very tippy top, but like the smugness and the just when I was going through my faith crisis and I was researching through all these videos, every single time I found a video with Smoot on it, I just skipped through it. I couldn't watch it. For some reason, it just frustrated me. It made me angry. I don't know why. Now I can like watch through it because I'm more level-headed. I'm a
yeah,
more reasonable human being now. But when I was I just like I could not watch any of his videos for whatever. It just made me mad. I'm like, why are you being so smug? You're an LDS
yeah,
apologist. There's nothing to be smug about. This isn't like you're not on the high school football team. Like,
right.
you chill out. I don't know. What do you think?
He's a good go-to source when it comes to the Book of Abraham.
Yes,
He can
very.
be a jerk sometimes, but so can I. I don't know if you've read his article in the Interpreter where he does a book review of Dan Vogel's book on Book of Abraham
I have.
Apologetics. It's good.
It's good.
It really breaks it down, very thorough. And I remember Smoot used to be in the Thoughtful Saints group. I think he left, but we were talking about Ishmael, the Ishmael stele found in southern Arabia. Um, And I remember Anthony Miller came in acting like he knew everything about it and was like very confident that it wasn't evidence at all. And Stephen Smoot came in and just exposed him. Like,
Oh yeah.
because it became clear that Anthony had not read any of the recent apologetics on it. He was not familiar with the scholarship. He was just basically assuming that because it was done by apologists that it must not be true. And so he was copying, pasting stuff from David Bokovoy and and
Yeah.
Dan Vogel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then when Smoot swooped in and just completely lambasted him, and rightfully so, for speaking on an issue he did not know anything about.
Yeah. That drives me crazy with some, like Anthony Taylor. I really like him as a person, but sometimes the apologetics are bad, critics are good arguments. Like that's kind of like, I feel like the mindset sometimes. Like anything that makes anything look bad, it's a really good argument. Anything that makes it look good is a really bad argument. And it's just so simplistic and shallow.
He just takes a default view that he takes the default view that Dan Vogel is the go-to guy to go to when it comes to this. Guys like Dan Vogel, and when it comes to Christianity in general, it's Bart Ehrman. Anyone that's atheist or agnostic scholars, that's the people you go to. That's just kind of his default.
Yeah.
And not that those people don't have anything good to offer, but they have their blind spots, and so does he.
Yeah.
But I'd put him on A tier.
I think A is right.
His scholarship is just as good as the others, but
it's so good.
He can be a
he should be right here if he just like worked on being a little more charismatic and being a little more less like the nerd in the hallway who reminding the teacher about his homework, right? And more like just a good human being who's defending Mormonism and doing it rationally. I don't even care about a little bit of fire, but doing it with like just the kind of the nasty smug and like I'm better than you. That drives me crazy sometimes.
Yeah, well, I have nothing against people like him holding people's feet to the fire when they're being disingenuous.
Yeah,
I think we need people like that, but sometimes he can overdo it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But hey, it works for some people. Really like that kind of stuff, and it resonates with them. So
yeah,
we probably need people like that. It's just not for me as much. Life by Go Goff. That's where I would put him.
That was pretty immediate.
This guy, this represents like everything I dislike in church culture and like apologetics. Life by Go Goff. It just like the defense. Like I don't know. Do you have anything? Have you ever read anything about him?
A little bit, and I haven't been impressed with what I've seen, but I don't have extensive knowledge of anything he's done.
He's like a more shallow, like I don't know. He's just like he defends the really orthodox, shallow view that like prophets really like don't make mistakes, and if they do, like it's like I don't like, and then like the priesthood band, for example, he passionately defends the priesthood band as very, very like very inspired. It was exactly what God needed to do. He very much is like follow the prophet or you're an idiot type of person. He just like that's just a brand of Mormonism that I have no interest in. Like it doesn't resonate with me at all. I don't believe that brand of Mormonism is true. He wouldn't even like me calling it Mormonism, right? That brand of Latter-day Saintism. It just doesn't resonate with me at all. I read his blog and I'm like, I was like, you're making me like not even want to be a part of the church right now, my man. Like, it's just like I can't even deal with this. Like, but I don't know. He is intelligent. Like he's really intelligent. You can read it as he writes, but just the things he chooses to defend and his arguments, it's just very, in my perspective, it's just very shallow. And it's like that Mormonism you grew up with in primary or like by your Sunday school Bruce R. McConkie teacher, and you never really like grew beyond, you know? It's just like everything's great. Church is always right. If you have any doubts, it's in yourself. Definitely not the church or the guys at church headquarters. I don't understand it. It's
Just pray more. Yeah.
yeah, just pray more type. Yeah, is the anyone who's going through a faith crisis. I feel like if they run into that as their perspective, like they're out. They're not gonna make. They're not gonna be able to. You got to have some nuance in it. So, next up, Stephen Harper. I think he's clear for me. Do you have anything to say about Stephen Harper?
I have been impressed with what I've seen of him. I have his book on the First Vision on my Kindle. I haven't read it yet, but from what I hear, he's just the go-to guy when it comes to the First Vision, and
Yeah,
top notch. I mean, it's published by the Oxford University Press, which is
yeah,
impressive by itself. But yeah, I'd put him on
yeah.
S tier.
He's an unbelievable scholar. Great on the First Vision. Great on the Law of Consecration too. A lot of original research that he himself went out and researched, and then goes out and makes the arguments back off of his research. Like he's kind of full plate. Like he does the research, and then he also goes and goes on podcasts and makes arguments defending the conclusions he reaches. So I think he's great. He's been on Stephen Murphy's channel, and those were some really great episodes talking about the First Vision. Yeah, he good guy, really charismatic, can make simple, good arguments. Yeah, I like him quite a bit. Jerry Grover. You know anything about Jerry Grover?
Yes. Yeah. I haven't read any of his stuff yet, but I've seen him plenty on podcasts and on Ward Radio. He's impressive. He knows a lot, and he's a geologist, and I think that's from what I hear about from Robert Boylan. That's where his best work is looking into the geology behind the earthquakes and the volcanic eruptions behind Third Nephi, and showing that it is actually very plausible that it really just blows Heartland out of the water, Heartland theory, because there's nothing that is able to meet that criteria at all.
Yeah,
so,
he's killed the Heartland
linguistics too, like translating the characters document. When he's doing a long form presentation, he's a bit dry and boring. So I think being on Ward Radio has been good for him, because it's a lot more entertaining, and it actually brings out the entertaining side of him too. And so the episodes that he's on there, I like them a lot.
Yeah, I think he's great. His research on the Timbaga and the plates and everything, like you mentioned, geology and Third Nephi, and the translation of the characters dark. I think that's all really high quality stuff. I would put him in A if he could simplify things and present himself a little bit more simpler and easier. But until he develops that, I'd probably put him in B. But I think the quality of his research is probably A. Just how he presents himself and how he writes. Sometimes it can be, like you said, long form, boring. If he tweaks that a little bit, I think A tier's easy for him. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Jim Bennett. Oh boy, this could have been an entirely different conversation a year and a half ago. Yeah. But in the last year and a half, and it's not Jim's fault. It's been a mess on all ends. LDS Twitter is a cesspool. Have you followed the drama with Jim and kind of Twitter?
A little bit. Maybe there's something I'm not aware of, though.
It's just he has a lot of frustrations with the Desnat crowd, which people who call themselves Desnat don't really exist anymore. But it's the crowd of LDS Twitter that is all about dunking on people and insulting them and trashing on them, and they're all they defend the really simplistic, shallow view of Mormonism. Everything's great, everything's right, don't disagree. And anyone who stretches outside of that, whoever they are, they'll just harass them. People on LDS Twitter will go at their place of employment. They'll just make fun of them for months on end. They'll insult them. It's just like, it is one of the most toxic online communities, and it's our church, people in our church who are like promoting it. It's ridiculous. But Jim has just put himself as the main character fighting against these people, these members of the church on Twitter. And I think that's been so toxic that it's made him look bad. It certainly has made the members of the church look bad. Like, everyone has just looked bad. Like, he's gotten really passionate. And it's been uncomfortable to watch some of his like hashing it out with some of those people. And then he's gone back and forth with like Jacob, on Mormon book reviews, and that was uncomfortable to watch. But
yeah,
I don't know, man. Jim was just like, his CES letter reply is so good. Like, it's so like, he has such a great ability to make concise arguments and intertwine them with stories and make them interesting and make them funny and make them relatable and make them like, he can like make our apologetic arguments really confidently. And like, you're like, oh yeah, that just makes sense. Where other people can say the same thing. You're like, what are you talking about? But Jim just has a really great way of communicating like persuasive points. But it just sucks that all this drama has kind of like hurt his reputation quite a bit.
Yeah, when it comes to political and social issues, the guy's toxic. The guy like blocked me on Twitter, and I never even interacted with him. He preemptively blocks people that he thinks has like even remotely conservative views on the Family Proclamation. I saw a screenshot once of one of his tweets where he basically said that anyone who believes in the Family Proclamation is a Desnat, and just so basically anyone that's remotely conservative on social issues is a Desnat.
Yeah, I haven't seen that tweet, but I know he has said, and I actually agreed with him, like, a lot of members of the church obsess about the things that like the Family Proclamation doesn't say, which is true. Like, the Family Proclamation doesn't say a lot of what we, will go on to like promote that it does say. But I don't know. There's the Trumpism on Twitter can get like, and I'm no fan of Trump, don't get me wrong, but Jim is just like so anti-Trump and so many tweets about him.
Well, there's like after Trump won the election in 2020, there's that video of him like playing the piano and just singing Joe is the champion to the tune of We Are the Champions by Queen. And he just looked absolutely deranged. Like,
I don't mind that. Like, he was just having a good time. I don't know. But like the anti-Trumpism is a little extra sometimes. I don't know. I wish I could put him up in like B or A, but he's dropped, man. He's dropped. I'd probably put him in C. I don't know. What about you?
Just because of his CES letter reply, yeah.
Yeah. And his Mormon Stories interviews were pretty good. His interviews on Stephen Murphy's channel were pretty good.
Yeah.
That stuff is still like a good stuff that's out there. I just wish he would get back to what he changed. So like his letter reply, like I think it's been one of the most impactful replies throughout the church. Like it's been read more than a lot of the other ones, and it's impacted a lot of people. It's just like he had, I just wish he'd go back to just being that Jim. But hey, he feels his calling right now is to beef with the church conservatives, then that's his calling, Let him do his thing, I guess. As long as he's happy in his ward, that's what matters. John Gee. You have anything to say about John Gee?
I have read a little bit of what he's done in the Book of Abraham. Him and Carrie Molstein have been the kind of the pioneers. They both got degrees at Yale, I think, in Egyptology, or at least one of them did. And so him, Carrie Molstein, and Stephen Smoot have been kind of the three biggest authorities on the Book of Abraham. Yeah, I've been impressed with what he's done so far, although I don't think he's made his work as digestible as Smoot has. So probably go down with someone like Jerry Grover.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, he has some of the best research out there, but oh my goodness, I cannot write. Like, I cannot read it. I cannot listen to it. It is some of the most boring Yeah. And no shame on him. I don't think he even puts himself out there as like this big debater or like he's just a researcher, and I don't think he's that
Right.
interested in like, being charismatic and everything. So I'd probably throw him in B. Yeah, right by Grover. Um, Next up is Dan Ellsworth. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really like nobody can successfully make me dislike the church more than Dan Ellsworth. I don't know what
Really?
it is, but like when I argue with him or when he like comments like condescending things under posts, I'm just like, I do not like the church right now. And then I go to my ward and I'm like, oh wait, I love the church.
Yeah.
This is my home. But something about Dan and the way he argues, the like how he does it, it drives me crazy. Like, oh, I don't. And
His he can be dogmatic sometimes, and admittedly so. I think he just say, "Yeah, I can be dogmatic, and I do that on purpose because I'm not going to entertain certain ideas that I don't think are true." So he's transparent about that. He's not being disingenuous at all. I do like his presentations. He does a good job at promoting people think clearly about an issue. He doesn't really address the fact of the matter or debunk people from like a facts point of view. He tries to get people to think clearly about an issue before they make a decision or make a judgment. And I think that's
yeah,
definitely very, very needed in the church. His presentations on YouTube, I think, are top notch when it comes to that. Although I have gotten frustrated with him at times when it comes to when he comes to dealing with people that he disagrees with. Just very black and white thinking. Um,
yeah.
Kind of
Oh, like
accuses people of being apostate because they hold unorthodox views.
he'll just like be like, yeah, apostates think like this, and then he'll just post like a screenshot of one of his presentations, acting like it came out of like a church manual, and I'm like, buddy, you made that. Like, why should I care about anything that's on that slide right now? And then like it drives me when I just want to have a conversation about like we've discussed the role of prophets, right? Me and him have hashed that out, not thoroughly, but like we've bickered back and forth a couple times on social media. And it's just like you just like the accusations drive me crazy. You haven't developed the mental models to be able to assess this problem clearly. And I'm like, shut up. I don't care about your dang mental models. Like, just have a conversation with me about like what prophets have done in the last 200 years versus what the expectations that scriptures lays out for us for them to be. Just what is the church branding prophets to be, and does that match observable reality? Like, those are I don't care about your dang slide 8 on your presentation of who knows what over like what mental model I need to develop. Like, it's just not that hard to have that conversation. It just I don't it feels like I'm arguing with like just I don't know, like someone who wants to be a textbook but they're not, and wants to be treated like they're a textbook but they're not. All right. And then like we had a really big argument a while back about multiple mortal probations. I don't know, you probably remember
Yeah.
that one.
I don't
And like
understand why he has such a derangement against that. Like, I don't
it
agree
was
with it, but
it was straight up derangement. Like I was like I talked about how like or he mentioned like look at this person who believed in multiple mortal probations. They did something bad, like they hurt themselves or they hurt somebody else, therefore it's bad. And I'm like, that is one of the most like insane arguments, like fallacious arguments. Like he loves to talk about fallacies, but then he'll make arguments like that are unbelievably fallacious because you can point to so many Mormons, conservatives, progressives, whatever, and find examples of extreme violence among them motivated by belief and be like, oh yeah, look, it's bad because of this person did this. Like he did the same thing to multiple people who believe in multiple mortal probations. And it's a profoundly stupid, fallacious argument, but he was happy to put it forth. But then anytime somebody says anything like, hey, I think the prophet's wrong about this, he just is like, oh, you're an apostate. That's a fallacious argument. Here's a screen from my slide. Now you're blocked. It just
yeah.
like, it drives me crazy. I don't know. So I'd love to have a conversation with Dan. Like, if Dan wants to come on here and talk with me about prophets, I would love that. But I cannot message him back and forth because I've talked to Dan in person one time and it was really pleasant. But over Facebook, it's just I get way too frustrated, and I'm just, yeah, I can't deal with it.
Yeah, I can see why some people get frustrated with him. I think he still deserves a C tier, just because he's fulfilled like a niche um, within LDS apologetics that not many people are filling. Just helping people think
Yeah.
clearly about an issue, like when it comes to church finances and what expectations you should have of the church. Um, and he also has done some good work on the Deutero Isaiah as well. So
Yeah. I don't know. I don't love his Deutero Isaiah stuff, but that's a long conversation. So we'll go back to that another time. That's a long conversation.
okay.
John W. Welch.
Oh, he's
What do
an
you think
S
about him?
tier.
Do you think he's S tier?
Yes, I met him in the Provo Temple when I was at BYU. Like, just that man is like a Renaissance man. He is a jack of all trades. He's a lawyer. He's like he's an expert in the field of chiasmus. Like, he's not just an expert in chiasmus in the Book of Mormon. He's considered an expert. Period. Even among in the non-LDS sphere, he's contributed to non-LDS scholarly books regarding chiasmus, and that's not even his like field of study. That's not his academic background. He's a lawyer. He taught at the J. Reuben Clark building, the law building, but he just like knows a lot about LDS apologetics, and he's the founder of Book of Mormon Central, and just he's done so many good things. A great influence.
Yeah, I don't know as much about him as you do. I just know his research on chiasms, but
Yeah, he
I don't
he
know.
discovered
Chiasms
when
are
he
kind
was
of,
on his mission in Germany. He just discovered
yeah,
them.
I remember that story. Chiasms never impressed me that much. They're not an evidence that I lean towards. I think they're cool, but I don't care much for them. So I'm not super passionate about him. But yeah, the fact that he founded Book of Mormon Central and all these other things, like that's huge stuff. Oh, Joseph Lau. Do you know anything about him?
Yeah, he hasn't been very active lately, but he's made some good
No.
videos on LDS philosophy. Orson
Yeah.
Pratt. Just I would rank him higher. It's just he hasn't done a ton. He's participated in a debate on a YouTube channel called The Gospel Truth, and he actually did a pretty
Yeah.
good job against like I think a guy was a Reformed Protestant called Apologetics Dog, and it was a very amiable debate, and I think Joseph won that. He's very sharp, and I think he should participate in more debates. Have you ever heard of street epistemology?
Yeah. I watched a couple videos on that a long time
These
ago.
atheist guys, they come on people on the street and ask them questions and
Try to
challenge
get
their
them to
beliefs.
like explain why they believe what they believe, type thing.
Yeah, there was a guy I forgot his name, but he did street epistemology with Joseph, and Joseph actually did a pretty good job at answering his questions. Like he usually, I see a lot of religious people get kind of bamboozled by street epistemology, but Joseph did a pretty good job at answering the questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if he's active and in a couple years he could be up here, maybe even all the way up here if he's really active. But I think he's not doing much right now, so probably just throw him
Yeah,
in D.
he's getting his PhD right now. He's probably busy, but I hope he
Yeah.
does more in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, he could get up there for sure. Keith Erickson. I like Keith Erickson. Have you read his book, Real versus Rumor?
I have not. I have it on my Kindle, but
It's a
I've
good
heard
book.
good things about it. Just dispelling false stories.
Yeah, he gives examples of a story and then he explains how like that story like became like accepted as historical fact when in reality it's like embellished or even just made up. So he gives examples of how it like came to be like accepted, and then he explains like some tools that you can use to like analyze these stories and see where they come from. Um, yeah, how to tell if they're true or not. It's just it's good stuff, man. I like Keith a lot. I would probably throw him in A, probably next to Smoot, just because he's not incredibly like active on the online community. But I don't know. What
Right.
do you think?
Yeah, you put him in A. From what I've seen, I've been impressed. Funny story about his work. So you know the story about those boys that helped carry the handcart companies across the Sweetwater River, and how like they ended up dying later from complications from that, and then Brigham Young said that that act alone will guarantee them a place in the celestial kingdom, and it
Hmm.
turned out that that was a myth. So one of the guys that was part of that group, his name is David Patton Kimball, that helped carry people across the river. He helped settle the town that I'm from in Arizona. It's called St. David. Um, and he's buried in the local cemetery there. And for an Eagle Scout project, this was years ago, a guy that was a friend of my brother's helped change the guy's tombstone, David Patton Kimball, and the tombstone has that quote from Brigham Young on the back. It's very seems very touching, but then you find out from guys like Keith Erickson that that quote probably was never said by Brigham Young. It kind of makes it a little interesting, but
Yeah. That's such important stuff that he's doing, but it can be heartbreaking sometimes when you get attached to some of these legends. But
yeah,
it is important
yeah,
because
it
we
is.
can't have people growing up with believing in myths and then their whole world crumbles and then they don't know what they believe anymore once they come to find those things out. Wayne
Right.
May.
Wayne May. Yeah. Well, he's a Heartlander, so
He's F tier.
yeah, he's up tier.
It's the picture of him holding the rock with like clearly, like you could clearly see like it was fake, and he's holding it on the Zoom slide, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this was found in Missouri, Heartland, like Book of Mormon's true," and it has like a picture of a cross on there, guy, and like some scribbles and stuff, and it's like it's so like I'm not a geologist at all, and I could look at it, I'm like that is fake, like that is clearly fake, and
Yep.
experts have chimed in. Like this is not just me talking. Experts have chimed in and give many reasons why it's fake. Not only just looking at the rock, but where it comes from and how sketchy these artifacts and the cave that doesn't actually exist, where they all come from. Like, and he's just holding it, just being like, "Look at this," and I'm just like, "You make the church look so bad, and you dupe so many people, and all you're doing is just making stuff up, and any intelligent person that latches onto this and then later finds out it's all nonsense, like they're gonna piece out of the church, and you did nothing to help that person. Like
Yep.
it drives me crazy.
Well, I have the Living Scriptures app, and it has a bunch of it has these documentaries made by Mesoamerican scholars and by Heartlanders. Like it just has a bunch of LDS related films on it, and I watched the patterns of evidences or something that was made a few years back. It gets to the Mesoamerican evidences and it has guys like Brant Gardner and John Sorensen like going over the convergences between Mesoamerican archaeology and history and the Book of Mormon, and it's really impressive. Um, and then I go to the documentary by the Heartlanders, and it's just like this. It's just nothing. It's just like this square in the
Mm.
ground, and they're just like, "This must be Zarahemla. It's right next to where Nauvoo used to be." Just,
It's a
it's
clown show, man. It is a
it's
straight up
nothing.
clown show. It drives me crazy. But the problem with the Heartlanders is they're such freaking good salesmen and marketers. Like that is what they have built themselves on. They do all these like conferences and they promote their stuff and they make graphics and they pump out a ton of content on YouTube that people just buy into it. Like they're just good at selling. They're just
Yeah,
salesmen. But like the Meso guys, like we have like no offense, but we have like Smoot and Brant and like Grover who are selling the Meso, and they're just not as pleasant to listen to. They're not as they're long winded. We need guys who are just passionate and just pumping out content. Like
yeah,
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 Saints Unscripted does a little bit. They help the Meso out quite a bit, and there's some other. Of course, we'll get to like the Rapleys and stuff. They're great, but yeah, we definitely need more salesmen in the on the Meso side of things because the Heartlanders they got the whole squad going.
yeah. I remember when Jerry Grover was going over like sunken cities or something. They were talking about sunken cities, um, and the Lake Atitlan that like correlates with the timeline pretty well with the city Jerusalem that was covered by water in Third Nephi. And then this Heartlander in the comments was like, I think this is a better candidate," and he posts like like an article about a sunken city that like the experts like they date the city and it's nowhere near the timeline of the Book of Mormon at all. It's just like
But don't
it's a
get me
sunken
wrong, the
city.
church,
So
the Earth is young, so therefore all timelines everywhere, they're not reliable because the Earth
oh
is
yeah,
6,000 years old. So therefore, everything is just whenever I want it to be. You know, if something
yeah,
is
pretty much.
if something is from 200 years ago, well, no, dating's wrong. We know the Earth is young, so this is actually from Book of Mormon times. Like, sorry, like that's just
Makes sense. Makes sense.
that's
Yeah.
that's how it works. It's just it's insane.
Carrie Molstein.
Yeah, Carrie. How can I not remember his name for a second? Carrie.
He
I
goes
like
there with
Carrie.
John Gee and Jerry Grover, I think.
Yeah, I think so
Although
too. He's good. He's a little boring, but he's good.
I don't know. He has that podcast called The Scriptures Are Real, and he invites a bunch of different scholars on there to talk about different subjects. He's even invited Dan McClellan. I think because of that, I would put
Did
him.
Dan go on?
Yeah, he did.
Really? I need to
He
listen to
did.
that. That'd be interesting.
I think because he's so active in something that is much more accessible. I think you should be put in A tier.
Oh, good.
Scriptures are real.
I'm with that. I think he's more digestible. I think Guy has a little better research, but Muhlestein is more digestible. Like I enjoy listening to Muhlestein much more than I enjoy listening to Guy. I
Right.
think he put some more persuasive arguments in. So, Book of Abraham, he's my go-to for Book of Abraham, and him and Smoot are my go-to. I'd
Right.
probably put Muhlestein over Smoot. Yeah, I like him quite a bit. I think he's transparent. He's a good guy. He gets ragged on by Exmos for his thing on the Fair Mormon Conference where he was like, I fit evidence into like how I believe, but like they cut out the first 2 minutes where he explains how normal human beings like will look at the majority of evidence, come to conclusions, and then based on their conclusion, they'll look back at the evidence and see how things fit together.
Yeah.
Like they cut out that, which is like everybody does that. It is 100% psychological fact. It's not even up for debate. It's how humans behave. And they just cut to the one clip out of context. And they're like, look, Carrie Muhlestein just says Mormons just like find evidence to support their beliefs. They don't consider anything else. I'm like, you guys are so toxic. And like, freaking John DeLynn did that on his podcast with Dan McClellan. And Dan McClellan was like, oh, well, I don't know. I haven't watched that, but I wouldn't agree with that. And I'm like, Dan, you got to be informed, man. You got to be able to push back on this lunatic who's out here trying to trash on Muhlestein over factual psychology. It's not even up for debate. You can't even argue it. It's just a fact that's how human beings behave.
Yep.
It's just, drives me crazy. Alejandro Rodriguez.
He's done some good stuff on the social science side, but I don't know how impactful his work has been.
Yeah, I know it hasn't. Probably right around here.
Yeah,
him and Lau. He has potential. I think he can get up to like B if he really dives in, maybe up. But right now he just kind of runs Latter-day Lobsters and he'll beef with people on Twitter occasionally. But that's
Rough
about
Stone
it.
trolling.
Yeah, Rough Stone trolling. I enjoy some of his posts. He says very logical and impactful things. He's not publishing or like making enough content to really go much higher than that. So, Spackman.
He's an S tier. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. This man is the young Earth creationist destroyer.
Yep.
Like he just nukes it. Yep. I love it.
Well, because I remember like on some Facebook post years ago saying that I believed in evolution, and this guy just started like hurling a bunch of like Joseph Fielding Smith quotes at me and Bruce R. McConkie quotes. She's like, "You're disagreeing with the prophets," and I'm like, "Oh, what I do? I'm disagreeing with the prophets." I didn't know what to say, but then like I come across his research, come to find out that LDS leaders have not had a consistent view on evolution. You got guys like B.H. Roberts, Talmage, John A. Witso, who definitely believes in evolution. And so, and the tide is kind of turned over the decades when it comes to how Latter-day Saints view evolution. I think he's done some good work. Can't wait for his dissertation to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've relied on his work a lot because obviously I'm believe in old Earth, and having to square that with like what the church's past positions have been has been tricky at times. But his research has made that
Yeah.
a much simpler task for everybody in the Latter Day Saint field. So, and he has good arguments. I wish he would dive more into like a little more theory, but he doesn't do too much like theorizing on what Adam and Eve actually means and stuff. And
Yeah.
like I wish he would touch on that a little more, but he more so just focuses on how the theology has developed over time.
One thing
So
he recommends is a book series by an evangelical scholar named John Walton. He has like a 7-book series on like the lost world of Genesis 1, the lost world of Adam and Eve, the lost world of the flood, the lost world of the Torah, lost world of the prophets, a bunch of others too. And I'm listening to those on Audible right now, and they're really good. And so if you want to get more into the Adam and Eve stuff, those would be good books to read.
yeah, I should actually. I haven't been through those. Kimberly Watson Smith, I think is her name. She beasts with polygamy deniers. I think this chick is a loon. I'm gonna be honest. I think she is just as bad as Michelle Stone, even though I agree with her. Yeah, just like
Well, she's
some
a
of the
seer
vicious.
stone denier.
Oh,
So,
she is. Well, I mean
she's a
that's.
seer stone denier.
I'm gonna
So
put you below Go.
F
There
tier.
you go. Yep, right there. I appreciate that she beasts with Michelle Stone, but
Yeah.
like she just is just as toxic. Like I remember like she posted something about like Brian Hells or something, like saying how like Michelle Stone was like trying to like hurt him or something, and I like commented underneath it. I was like, this is like I don't think there's anything toxic by this. Yeah, of course we can. And like I like made a very rational comment, giving her a little pushback, and I got blocked like 10 seconds later. And I was like, okay, this. I wasn't even mean. I was trying to be nice. I was trying to be like, hey, this. I don't think this was that bad. Blah blah blah. And then she just blocks me.
She's done a good job at facilitating the debunking of the Who Killed Joseph Smith crowd too. She had a YouTube channel where she gathered a bunch of experts together, like Brian Stutzman, who is a historian about that era, and then a few other like forensic experts and stuff to basically just talk about all the problems behind that theory.
Yeah.
So she brought like a round table of experts, and so she's done some good stuff, but she's also, no chill, absolutely no chill. So
None
yeah,
whatsoever.
it's for that reason that I might put her in D because she has done some good work, but
No, leave her an F. Leave her an F.
yeah,
We need more people down there.
yeah,
Michael Ash.
he's S tier.
Yeah. He's S. We might have too many in S. We have to move some down in a minute, but we'll see how we get there. But definitely S tier.
Yeah,
I like him a lot. I think he's kind, he's compassionate. For me, he's a little progressive, which I relate to. He's thorough. His CES letter reply is, I'll be honest, I think is probably the worst out of the common ones. And I think that was just because he didn't put as much time into it as he probably should have. Like his polygamy section was basically like, go research Brian Hells, and then he like moved on to the next section. I was like, okay,
is that the
come on.
bamboozled by the CES letter?
Yeah, bamboozled by the CES letter. That's his.
Oh yeah, I wasn't very impressed
like,
with that one. But Shaken
Yeah, it
Faith
wasn't-
Syndrome and Of
Yeah.
Faith and Reason is a good one. That was kind of my introduction to apologetics.
Yeah, his stuff on DNA is really good.
Mm-hmm. And I still have yet to read his latest book, which is a really long one about prophet and God as like co-authors with each other on scripture. I want to because I heard there's some good stuff in it. It's very extensive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, he's great. He's published a lot. He's thorough. Yeah. Good guy. Hannah Syriac. I've read a few of her articles, but I came on to like the LDS online community after she kind of like slowly faded away. So I don't know as much about her. Do you know much about her?
yeah, I interacted with her a little bit, friends with her on Facebook. She went from being like fairly conservative to being progressive and believing in like CRT, critical race theory and stuff. And so I was a bit disappointed about that. Um, and yeah, she hasn't been very active at all, but the work she has put out has been pretty good.
Yeah, I'd probably throw her with all these guys.
Yeah.
She's just there. They're all just kind of hanging around.
She writes articles for Deseret News, and
Yeah,
some of those articles have been pretty good at like defending the church, like especially from a social scientific point of view.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, she's done some good.
yeah. She's done really some good stuff. She blocked me on Twitter like a week after I joined, and I don't know why. But then like 6 months later, she unblocked me, and I to this day I have no idea like
That's weird.
what went on there. But yeah, Jared Halverson.
You're gonna have to be the one to rank this one because I don't really know much about him.
He's good. He does a lot of research on the Book of Mormon. He's similar to Garrett Dirkmatt in that way. I haven't listened to a ton of his stuff, but I have like his comeback podcast. Like he hasn't had a faith crisis, but they just brought him on for like a Q&A. I've listened to that stuff. It's good. I'd probably throw him in B, just kind of with these guys. Maybe A if I listen to him more, but I just haven't listened to enough to like justify putting him up with like those three. So probably right there. Let's move me to the end here.
Okay.
I'll do that later. Put me at the end. I need to put you in there. I forgot to put you in there. I can probably put you in a minute. Jasmine. I think Jasmine is pretty excellent.
Yeah.
I think she has S potential. I think her only holdback is she hasn't published a ton of like her own research, right? She
Right.
makes a lot of content kind of piggybacking off of like other people at Book of Mormon Central. But she makes really, really good stuff. It's really simplistic. I adore Jasmine. I think she is like up there with David Snell when it comes to just pure content creation.
She's a good communicator.
She's a good communicator, but sometimes I think she likes to make these like TikTok series going over like a controversial issue. So she'll bring up, say, anachronisms of the Book of Mormon, and she'll make like 3 different videos, basically just being like, here's the explanation for anachronisms. She'll make another video and be like, here's the explanation for anachronisms, and like she'll sometimes give like credibility to probably weaker arguments, and then Exmos on TikTok just like go crazy and they just start hampering down. And I'm like, I doubt Jasmine even believes that argument. She was just making a TikTok, like basically promoting it out there. But I think she could do a better job, like putting herself into it. Like she represents Scripture Central, but I think she sometimes needs to be Jasmine, and just like, here's what I believe. Here's what I think is a good argument. Here's what I think are poor arguments. And I think that would help her like stop getting so much hate and backlash, because she just gives overviews, doesn't really specify what she thinks about them, and then she just gets ripped on like as if she's promoting that argument. And I'm like, she gets so much needless hate for being such a great researcher and great person. It frustrates me so bad. But
Yeah.
I think her content's great though. She simplifies things. Yeah, great stuff. Definitely, I think I'd put her right here. What do you think?
So you think David Snell is slightly better than her? Because he
Yeah.
basically plays the same role as Jasmine, and yet we put him on the S tier. So
I think David's a little better because David's more David. Like he's more willing to be David in his videos, where Jasmine's more Scripture Central. And I also think David's are a little bit more in depth and more like they have like more research published throughout the video, where Jasmine's are more just like TikToks, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's where I would put David in A and Aaron in S and Jasmine in A. I think Jasmine has S potential. There's just a couple things I'd like to see, and I'd put her in A or an S.
Okay. Let's do the Rapleys together. We can do Neil right after her.
Oh yeah, where is he?
He's at the very end.
Neil. All right, I think Neil's an S. What do you think?
Yeah, purely because of what he's done with Nahum.
Oh yeah.
I remember like him and Steven Smoot had this spat with what's his name? Forgot his name. On like Neil's blog about Nahum, and Exmos just went crazy over that one. Thought the guy totally trashed him. I didn't think he did, But one of the guy's hangups was that Nahom is just a tribe, not a place. And Neil's recent publication in BYU Studies definitely put that to rest. He's just done a really good job, and
Oh yeah.
his recent Fair Mormon talk that also made it into an interpreter article about Martin Harris and spiritual eyes is really good, because he does a good job at explaining that, like, when Martin Harris used the word spiritual eyes, it wasn't that he didn't see. It wasn't that his experience wasn't a physical experience. It was that God had to prepare his body and his eyes to be able to withstand the presence of a heavenly being. And so it was still a very physical experience. He's done some good work, really good work.
Oh yeah, great work. And like his interview on Stephen Smoot is really, really good. Like you can see how much he knows, like about the old world and the new world. Like he is really good at meso too. Like I remember
you mean Stephen Murphy?
Oh yeah, not Smoot. Stephen Murphy's channel, Mormonism with the Murph. His interview on that channel, like he knows his stuff for sure. Like it's
right. Yeah.
I recommend anyone who wants a deep talk about Book of Mormon listen to that. I remember I've had a conversation with him twice. Both times I asked him a question. The first time I was like, "Hey, can you explain to me like how the Frankenese Trail connects to Nahom and to between Nahom and Bountiful? If Bountiful's Cork or Fought, that's all nonsense words, but basically he understood what I was asking, and he went on for like 45 minutes without stopping, not a break. And I don't think I understood one thing he said. I was just like, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh, thank you. Like 45 minutes in the middle of like a public setting, he was just like the word yapping, like he was just straight yapping, like just and I was like, I slow it down for me.
You lost me, bud.
Give me the 10-second version, and I would be with you. But you can just tell this man has so much freaking knowledge in his brain. Like he knows more than, like, he makes like other researchers just look puny. Like he knows what he's talking about. And then I've asked him some other questions about meso and everything, and he's given me like 30 books to study that I probably never will. But like he's just like, yeah, incredible researcher, great guy. Definitely S tier. I'd probably swam up a little over Ash, maybe over Spackman. Probably right there. All right. Terrell Givens.
I haven't read a ton of his books. I've read Into the Headwinds, the one that he co-authored with his son, which was really good. Not what he typically writes about, though, but it's really good. I really liked it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna move David down a little bit.
He's been a pioneer. I think he was one of the first scholars to actually get published by the Oxford University Press. He's done a good job at popularizing and legitimizing Mormonism as a field of study, as a legitimate field of study among scholars. And so for that reason, I think he deserves to be an S.
I think he's definitely an S tier. I think he's high, like up there with Dan Peterson.
Yeah.
Like he's very, very, very high quality. And like when he goes on interviews, everything is just so simple. Like he'll answer questions like with the Book of Abraham, and he won't even like dive into any like history or like any like and he'll just like explain the Book of Abraham as like a book, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. All these controversial questions that don't even matter. Like I know what the Book of Abraham is. Like he just is he's so simple, he's so spiritual, insightful. Like he just like, yeah, he makes like things that seem like a big issue. He'll talk about them in a way that's like, he'll bring it to reality, and he'll like, and it's just like, oh, I'm not as concerned about that as I was before. Even if he doesn't even answer the question, it just has he's very calming. Like I like Terrell Givens a lot. I'd probably throw him.
He wrote a biography of Parley P. Pratt as well that I haven't read yet, but I'm looking forward to it. He's had his hand in many different fields, and
he's one of the only people I've seen do Catalyst on the Book of Abraham, which I appreciated because I lean Catalyst. Most everyone else is Lost Scroll. Tyler Callister. He's a
I've
young
read
Earth
almost.
creationist, so for me, he goes a little lower.
He's a
But
young Earth creationist.
yeah, if you read the Infinite Atonement, he talks about how Adam, like he makes the argument, Adam, in the day that you eat the fruit, you'll die. And then he's like, oh, the Earth is 1,000. The like he was on the Kolob time frame, so like 1,000 years he eats the fruit, so he died within that day technically because the day on Kolob 1,000 years. And so he basically leans into like Adam being thousands of years old, the Earth being young. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't know.
I like
I
he
love
was
Taste for the Book of Mormon was a huge book for me though. Really
yeah,
important book for me.
and his other books on the Blueprint of Christ Church and the Inevitable Apostasy are really good. Like he goes really into church
Yeah.
history, like the Ante-Nicene Fathers. Um, he's very well read. Um,
Yeah.
there is a little bit of like McConkie Mormonism in him,
Hmm.
but like
And the Case
definitely a
for the
smart
Book of
guy.
Mormon, he definitely is straw. Like it was really impactful when I first read it. Going back to it now, though, he definitely strawmans critics like outrageously. Like
Yeah,
he'll like talk about like one anachronism, and then he'll be like, "See, anachronisms aren't an issue anymore." Like after like only talking about one of them, and I'm like, "You're not even like getting into like Deuteroids, like anything that's actually like significant." Like he'll be like, barley was found, so therefore Book of Mormon true. And I'm like, okay, that is you gotta
yeah.
slow down with me on that one. So like I think I would probably throw him in B, maybe high C. I don't know, what do you think?
Um, yeah, C, high C.
High C.
Yeah.
Let's get a quick down here. Um yeah, I think that's a good spot. Neville.
He's going down with the rest of the Heartlanders.
I'll put him a little higher, definitely over Goff. Yeah. Um, yeah, I Neville is he's the one. He's probably the best Heartlander. Like he's the most serious, and most. He's probably the best Searstone denier too. Like he's
Hmm.
the most serious about it. He tries to come to like the most reasonable conclusions. Well, he still maintains, I think, a fairly absurd position. At least I can look at it and be like, at least you're not lying. At least you're not just
Yeah.
making stuff up. Where like, yeah, May
Well, I
and
think
these other
Richard Bushman
ones.
even said that
Yeah, his book was worth studying.
the best argument from Seer Stone Deniers comes from Neville.
Yeah, it's actual like it's real. Like he's actually putting forth an argument. He's not just talking nonsense. So
Right.
I appreciate that about Jonathan Neville. I just yeah, he does promote things I think are just unbelievably absurd, and so I'd leave him down there. But he should be separated from the rest for sure.
All right. Hannah Stoddard.
Anything to add there?
No. Just I think all those people do more damage than good for the church.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to debate her on Joseph Steerstone. I would that there's probably no topic I would be more excited to debate than against Hannah Stoddard on if Joseph Smith uses Steerstone or not. Like it is her video series debunking Rough Stone Rolling is some of the worst. Like it's high quality, but it's
Hmm.
some of the worst content on YouTube. It is just it just made me so freaking frustrated. She throws shade on like every like LDS person. Like she trashes on David Snell. She trashes on
Leonard
Richard
Arrington.
Bushman. Yeah, Leonard. She just trashes on people that like don't deserve it. They're responsible people. The Searstone, Searstone denial is worse than polygamy denial, and I will defend that to my deathbed. Like it
You think
is
so,
just,
huh?
I 100. I could, if I really wanted to, I could deny polygamy. I'd have to jump through a lot of like logical loopholes to do it, but I could. Like I could justify it to myself. Like there's an argument to make. I think it's a crazy argument, but at least it's real. I don't think Searstone denial has a real argument. I think it's literally just you have to deny history, you have to deny facts, unless you go the Neville route where it's like The seer stone was partially used, but it was mostly urim and thummim. Then like maybe that, but the Hannah Stoddard route where it's like, no, seer stone denial is not like seer stone never even happened. Treasure digging never even happened. He never even touched that thing. That's not even, you can't even do that. Like it's like saying the sky's yellow. It's not. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's bad. Richard Bushman.
Oh, he's S, without a doubt.
Probably right there, yeah.
Yeah. Rough Stone Rolling, great book. His recent book on the culture history of the golden plates, excellent book.
Yeah.
He does a really good job at taking the treasure digging stuff and helping and making the Angel Moroni and the plates fit within that. Because a lot of people just say that, oh, well, Joseph Smith was treasure digging, then he suddenly changes his story to Angel and Plates. In his book on the golden plates, like he makes a very understandable argument that Joseph Smith, when the angel first showed up and told him about golden plates, that Joseph initially understood that within his culture. Like, oh, yeah. So within his culture, the treasure digging culture, spirits would protect, would stand over, guard over these treasures, and people would try and find them, and then they'd release the spirit. Well, Angel Moroni guarding these golden plates fits right into that. But over time, his understanding of that morphed as he realized that this wasn't just any ordinary treasure, and that the Angel Moroni wasn't just like a spirit guarding the treasure, but like an actual resurrected angel. And so I think he does a good job of showing how it's understandable why Joseph Smith's understanding of that changed over time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think he is the definition of a Mormon scholar. I have two of his books right here on my quick bookshelf, right? Most useful books I have on my desk, and two of them out of like the 8 are Richard Bushman's. Like, it's just like he is transparent, he is good, he's persuasive, he is the Mormon scholar, the gold standard, what anyone would want to be. Blake Ostler.
Blake Ostler, I would say is S. Although I would understand why some people would put him in A, just because he can be kind of abrasive with people and it can be a turnoff. But I think as far as his actual scholarship and work, he's done a good job. He's one of the few that's actually debated guys like William Lane Craig and prominent evangelical scholars and philosophers. And he's been a pioneer in LDS philosophy.
He argues for what is it? Oh, I've been out of this for too long. It's the that God was never a man. He argues against
the infinite regress.
He argues against infinite regress, which I don't like. I don't love that.
The way that I understand it is that God was a man that lived on a different planet, but he was more like a Christ rather than just a man like you and me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's what his argument is.
I mean, that would work, I guess. Because I've never had a conversation with Blake Ostler. I've seen him online, and I haven't loved his behavior. It's been a little bit too much for me. But like, I had a conversation with his son on Thoughtful Saints, and I shared the Joseph Smith quote about multiple mortal probations. That is the only way to interpret it. That's another conversation. And his son basically like tried to kind of shoo it away. So it made me hint that like he wouldn't believe, because the part of multiple mortal probations is people become Christ. Like every human being would have to become a Christ on another world type thing. And so I don't think I don't know. But yeah, I like infinite regress. I like the Joseph Smith, King Follett discourse Mormonism. That's like my brand of Mormonism. I vibe with the deep craziness of it. But as when it comes to his scholarship, like you said, it's like second to none. He has, great philosophy. I just don't agree with his conclusions, but I think he is as smart as they come. I would put him in A, but I think you're right that he probably deserves it up here, despite my personal beef with how he behaves online. I think he probably should be right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Roach.
Um,
Jennifer Roach.
I'd put her in B
B.
because she's not as much of a regular contributor as the ones in A, but she's still done some good work, especially in her research on sexual assault in the church and sexual abuse.
Yeah, and she's part of the jock group. I haven't loved how they have heard like how they've treated Pastor Jeff is just it's not right, man. It is not right at all. Like Pastor
Yeah,
Jeff is a good guy,
I
and
can
she's like, "You're
understand
not
why
a
some people would be skeptical of him, just because he
yeah,
sometimes he regurgitates a lot of anti-Mormon talking points, but he does it with
yeah."
a smile on his face and with accompanied with flattery. I don't think he means it. Um,
I
and
regurgitate a ton of anti-evangelical points.
yeah,
Like, so what? What? It's his point of view, you know. Like,
yeah, but their
it
point
just
is that people like members wouldn't be okay with it if it was coming from someone like James White, and yet he's saying the same stuff that James White says a lot of the time, but he does it with companies with flattery, and so people like him. Which I don't agree with that perspective, but I can understand it.
that you can see where they're coming from.
Yeah,
My thing is like
and
he brings LDS people on his show all the time. He highlights
yeah,
how good our religion is. Like he advocate like he's not out here just like trying to like he's making steps that clearly show he's trying to show that our religion is good.
yeah.
And and maybe he regurgitates things because we haven't given him good answers yet. And maybe we need to do a better job on that end, but I don't think he's dishonest at all.
No, I don't.
Like
There was just I remember watching him when he was first getting big, and when he was recounting the Saints' persecution in Missouri, he said some things
mhm.
that sounded kind of victim blamey, like oh there was violence on both sides. The Mormons did things too, and I'm like, yeah, well the Native Americans did some bad things too against like American settlers, but we still universally recognize that they were the ones that got the short end of the stick. So. Um,
Yeah.
I stopped watching him after that. Not because I didn't like him, but I just didn't think it was worth my time. However, Jacob Hansen
Yeah.
recently had him on a show, and Jacob really pushed him and basically got him to admit that he doesn't believe that Latter day Saints are going to hell,
Yeah.
which is,
It's a great admission.
yeah, it's a great admission that you don't hear from many counter cult evangelicals. So just,
Yeah.
I thought that
But
was
yeah, back to Roach. I've just seen her like just like go at him so hard and be like, "You're not a pastor," and it's like a pastor has to do this and qualify as this. I'm like, I could be a pastor if I want to, Roach. Like, what are you going to do about it?
yeah.
You know, like shut up. I don't need to go and get some sort of certificate to be a pastor. Like, I don't know. She just like I feel like she picks battles, and sometimes she's a little nasty with people that she doesn't need to be, and that bothers me. But I don't know. She has her research with the Boy Scouts and sexual assault in the church is really high quality, transparent stuff, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So, Boylan,
Robert. So I know Robert watches our show, so I want to make sure and be as tactful about this as possible. That guy is like a human supercomputer.
yeah,
Like
he is.
he knows a ton and probably more than just about any apologist ever. Like he had
Yeah,
Terrell Givens on his podcast once, and you could tell he knew just as much, if not more, than Terrell on some subjects. Like he could definitely they seem like equals.
yeah,
And Terrell is a very top notch scholar. His Robert's presentations on the Mormonism with the Murph on the first vision, on early Mormon modalism, he refutes that very well. Like he refutes a lot of Dan Vogel's arguments about those things. His refutation of like Protestant theology, like he kind of made a name for himself a few years back when Jeff Durbin made the Gospel for Mormons video, and Robert made this really extensive article that people kept on posting in the comments anytime that video came up. and it actually got a response from Dr. James White and Jeff Durbin. It was a really terrible response that didn't really address anything he said. Um, but I think he's underrated in many ways. The only hang up I have with him is that I don't have anything wrong with people being aggressive, because I can be aggressive at times. And I think him and Travis Anderson, the critics that they invite on the show, they do a really good job at holding their feet to the fire when they're being disingenuous. But there are some times where they can be just mean, and it doesn't really serve any higher purpose.
Yeah.
And Robert, I mean this in the most good faith way possible. I don't want you to feel insulted. Just that would be my only criticism of you, is that sometimes you can go too far when it comes to being mean. Everything
Yeah.
else, just top notch. And I think that you are the future of Mormon scholarship.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I echo everything you said. Robert is a practical genius. His mind is incredible. His ability to read is incredible, and his ability to find sources is second to none. Like, he just is unbelievable at just plowing through documents and tracking things down. So incredible there. But yeah, Robert, I'm just gonna be very blunt here. Like, he can be a massive dick online, and it is not okay a lot of the time. Like, the things I have seen him say, I'm like, what did you just call that person? Like, why? What are you trying to
Well,
accomplish here? And then the little Goonies, all the little, like, Stephen Smith and all them, were like, yeah, look at that. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, you're LDS apologists. You're not cool. Like, come on. Like, stop with
yeah.
just trashing on people. Like, they're not just treating people like they're human garbage just because they're, like, making bad evangelical arguments. I'm just like,
Well,
bring it
to be
back
fair,
to reality. Like,
some
yeah.
of it might be cultural differences, because I know
Yeah,
that
that's very true.
there's some words in Ireland that people use that are kind of taboo here,
Yeah.
um, like the word retarded,
Yeah.
um, stuff like that. I think they're just a little more free with that. So just trying to be
Well,
a
I
little
saw
more
him call
charitable
someone.
towards Robert. What?
I saw him call someone.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like what? Like, what are you doing, Rob? Why would you do that? Why would you say that? Like, that is not a
Yeah.
good look for anybody, especially not someone who's trying to be like Dan, like, just like a really highly regarded apologist. Like, just, you gotta. I think Robert should be like, Robert could be here, like right here, easily, like, very, very easily, with just to publish a couple more things and make his content a little more concise, and like work on his presentation skills right there. He could be right there,
And
but with
debate
just
and
how,
go do more debates with high
yeah,
caliber evangelical and Christian scholars. If you could do
yeah, but
that.
just like, if he could just chill on like how he behaves with people, and just like, even if you disagree, even if you think their arguments are beyond stupid, and don't get me wrong, I think a lot of people's arguments are beyond stupid, and they deserve a lot of contempt for that. But like, just like, bring it down a notch, like, rationally explain your position. Don't even get me started on Travis Anderson. I do not like Travis Anderson at all. Like,
Do you
just
have him on
get
there?
that dude out of your life, man. That dude's bad. But like, I just think Boylan has like the most potential out of anyone in the church, and I just think if he could just tone it back a little bit, bring some peace into his, like, just calm down with people, he would be well esteemed among all religious studies as one of the best out there.
So I would put him on A, but make him the first one.
Yeah, I think he's definitely over. Probably I'd adjust this a little bit. Maybe that. Probably that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think he goes right there. And this is all coming from my heart. I mean, I might make Robert mad, but it is what it is. It's just like, that's how I feel about him. I think he has so much potential. You gotta bring it back a significant amount, and hopefully yeah. I don't know. Just gotta chill with the online cyberbullying stuff. Like, it's too much for me. Xander.
Xander Sturgill. Um, I'd put him with Roach and Grover and everything. Just
I think so too. He's new on the scene. He's still. I haven't watched a ton of his stuff. I'm kind of waiting to see where.
his output hasn't been as frequent as
Yeah,
Snell or Jasmine either. So I don't know.
yeah. I don't think he's up
He's
there.
put out some good stuff.
Hales. Ryan Hales.
Brian Hales. Um, I know some people have problems with him, but he's produced the best work on Joseph Smith's polygamy out there. So
And now the Book of Mormon. Some of the best stuff on the Book of Mormon too now.
yeah,
Like just on yeah.
I put him in S tier.
I'd probably throw him probably there.
But yeah,
I think he's good. I'd probably put him below Bradley. But I think he's transparent. He's good. He's really good at just like raw data and then like organizing it into graphs and just showing you what the facts are. Like with the
yeah.
Book of Mormon with polygamy, his Joseph Smith's polygamy, the website and those books are incredible research. They're good. They're transparent.
Did you watch that video I sent you?
Stuff.
Did you watch that video I sent you about him debunking the magic mushroom theory?
No, I haven't yet. I have never
Yeah.
been interested in the magic mushroom, so I didn't jot to it yet. But
Yeah,
is it pretty
he does
good?
a good job. He does a good job, and that's his area of expertise. He's an anesthesiologist, so he knows like the chemicals that affect the body. They're in your like cognition and everything. So he definitely knows a lot about that. But yeah,
Yeah,
I love his work, and he should be having a book come out about the Book of Mormon pretty soon. So
yeah, and I think it's going to be great. Yeah, he has really great research. It's thorough, and it's like really like it's nice how he identifies like the Book of Mormon uses this word this many times, and this word's significant because like he just gives like raw data that you can like really see how um like what the Book of Mormon and or polygamy like what they actually are instead of just writing a long like article that's like boring to read. He just gives like the raw facts,
mm-hmm.
and it makes it a lot easier to like really digest the information. Kurt Frankum.
I don't know much about him.
He's just a general LDS podcaster. I wouldn't say he's top notch. I think he's good. I'd probably put him right above Quick. I think he's a little better than Quick, but I don't think he's definitely not a scholar. Like he doesn't say anything scholarly that I'm like, whoa, you just said that, you know? Like but he's spiritual, he's insightful, he offers really good perspectives. He's had Roach on his show, he's had some of these other guys. Like he's got good interviews. Stephen Murphy.
Stephen Murphy is a great interlocutor.
Yes.
Very incredible. Fair, objective, and invites people from many different perspectives onto his show. The only reason why I wouldn't put him in S tier is just, I don't know, he has made his own videos just with him going over.
Yeah, he does his own videos, but they're not as, it's tough, and I like, it kind of feels like death by PowerPoint. I'm sorry, Steven. But like he'll like just make PowerPoints and he'll kind of just read them and like briefly explain his thoughts. And I wish he could just like, you know, like get like a little like what are those things called? Teleprompter, I don't know. Get a teleprompter, work on your presentation skills a little bit, and then like you can edit some of the like the sources and everything's into the video as like and then just like film it as like a presentation, like really high quality.
Right.
I think it would make it more digestible. Sometimes it's just like, am I sitting in like a high school health class right now? Like sometimes it's just like as he goes through it and like, but like when it comes to his interviews, there is nothing better on YouTube. There's nothing even close to Stephen. Like Stephen Murphy is like when I was going through my thing, that's what I needed and it wasn't there. Like I needed something that was transparent, something you brought the scholars on and you're like, and the CES letter says this, what say you? You know? Instead of like the Saints Unscripted, like, hey, there's been some like talk about, you know, maybe like a 14-year-old bride. Steven's like, 14-year-old bride disturbing. Hell, let's talk about it. You know, like he just like he gives pushback on apologists. He gives pushback on critics. I think he does really great stuff, really great interviews. Anyone who's like gone through all the interviews on his channel is going to be incredibly informed. Yeah, I like him a lot. I've been
wanting to do a presentation on cult models with him.
You should.
I just like I've been too busy with school and work and about to have a baby. So
once
everything dies down, I contacted him and he was all for it. but I just told him I don't have a deadline for him yet. I would like to do a presentation on cult models on his show someday.
Yeah. I'd probably throw him an A,
Yeah,
right next to Jasmine. Maybe, yeah, it's hard because he hasn't done his own research like Grover and stuff, but just because of how involved he is on the online community, I'd put him up there.
right.
Kwaku L.
Kwaku. He's had a major impact, but not always a positive one. The guy,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I remember back when he was like really early on when he was still at BYU, and he was at BYU the same time I was, and I saw him a few times, but he was always on the phone, and I wasn't ever able to talk to him. But he was very much more not reserved, but much more measured in the things that he said back then, and he was, I don't know, not as extreme and out there as he is now.
Yeah.
Um,
I think he's slowly becoming a polygamy denier. That might be totally false. But
it seems like he sympathizes with them.
I felt like he's been leaning that way, and it kind of aligns with, I feel like, how he sees things.
Yeah.
One thing I like about Kwaku, though, is he is who he is. He says exactly what he believes. He's not afraid to get canceled. And he can make some really persuasive points, like in some of the episodes on on Ward Radio. Kwaku has probably said, for me, the most impactful stuff out of anybody on the show. I feel like Brad's just kind of does his thing. Cardin is talking nonsense 95% of the time. Kwaku has some really the most insightful stuff I hear on Ward Radio comes from Kwaku, but also the most outlandish and problematic stuff also comes from Kwaku. So there's a mix. He's been impactful, definitely.
His debates with Aaron Shapovalov were pretty good, especially the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically getting him to admit his beliefs. That's all you have to do, right? Just
make his God look like a psychopath.
Yeah. That's all it is. So I don't know if I'd like to put him here, but I'd probably realistically put him there-ish.
Yeah.
On the other.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah. Nathaniel Givens.
I'd probably put him in B.
Yeah, I think so.
He has some good insights, but that's not his he does apologetics on the side, really. But I'm friends with him on Facebook. He's a cool dude, really smart. I thought he did a really good job when he went onto Ward Radio and just making them kind of look like fools when it came to the Tim Ballard situation.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Just made them look like a bunch of fools and got Kwaku a little. He ruffled Kwaku's feathers a little bit, but it was stuff that needed to be said. Just kind of bring them down to earth when it came to their conspiracy theories about what was going on with Tim Ballard. So,
yeah, Matt Roper.
Matt Roper, he's done really good work on anachronisms.
Yeah, I like Matt Roper a lot, but a lot of our foolish traditions and apologetics also can come from Matt Roper. And I also think, I don't want to say some of his stuff has been dishonest, but it just hasn't been as transparent as I would have liked out of some other people. Like the 208 anachronism, or the so-and-so amount of anachronisms, 180 have been discovered type thing. That comes from him out of an unpublished paper. And it's just been copied by apologists and it's not even published. And then when you go and look at some of the preliminary research, he includes things that aren't anachronisms. They were never claimed to be anachronisms. Some critic basically mentioned it was not a part of the ancient world. So he's like, oh, that's an anachronism that a critic mentioned, when it was there was universities that already acknowledged that those things were there. It was, so some of it, and then some of his stuff on stylometry in the Book of Mormon just doesn't feel holistic. Some of his stuff just feels, it feels like it's slanted towards the church, which, I mean, that's a position he's defending, but I don't think it gives us any benefit unless he is willing to be a little more transparent. So if it was me, I'd probably put him right over Tad right here, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think he has pointed out that like a lot of anachronisms have disappeared over time, even if he has
Yeah,
included ones that should be included. He kind of inflates the numbers. I would put him up with like Jerry Grover and Sandra
maybe
Sturgill.
like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good spot. Okay, Cardinals. If it was
Cardin himself, anytime he tries to anytime he tries to debunk someone, I just cringe.
Oh
but the
my
thing
gosh.
is that he has done a really good job at making guys like Jerry Grover entertaining.
Yes.
Like he has created a very, very entertaining space, very funny space where presenters like Jerry Grover would normally seem very boring in other spaces, but like he just makes it very captivating. His ability to put a good show together and make it entertaining and digestible is really like he is second to none when it comes to that. When it comes to show business.
Yeah. He's done it. You're right. He's done an incredible, and like the LDS community would not be where it was without Ward Radio lately. Like we've gotten the names of scholars have gotten out there a lot better. They've branded people better, but Cardin has zero ability to like put forth like an actual well-researched, coherent LDS apologetic argument. He had like no capacity to do it. Whenever he like tries to like bridge he's like, let me be the bridge. Let me bridge the gap. He has no capacity to do that. He like whatever he like just anything he says like when it comes to like apologetic style is just nonsense. It's usually just he doesn't say anything. He just goes back to Boomer's bad. Like
well, he recently invited James White onto his show, and I'm just like, look, if by chance James White accepts, please like invite someone like Robert Boylan or Blake Glasgow onto your show,
please,
to dialogue with them. Don't do it yourself because you will make yourself in the church look like a fool. I commented underneath the video that I said exactly that. Please, Cardin, I love you. I love what you do, but like invite someone who knows what they're talking about if this ever does come to pass.
Yeah. Cardin will just be like, here's an experience I had in LA and this is why I'm right. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. So I'd put Cardin probably here personally, but because of like what you mentioned, what he's done for the online community and like how he's done, maybe I'd probably put him right here. What do you think?
Yeah.
Probably right there. All right, there you go. Brad Whitbeck, you have any thoughts?
Brad is just a wholesome guy.
Yeah, Brad's a good guy. I've had a few conversations, one over the phone with Brad and then in person. I get the vibe that Brad's kind of like talking to people who like aren't his friends is like a chore, but he like puts on a smile and like, like it doesn't feel super genuine. So that kind of turned me off towards Brad a little bit. And then some of the stuff sometimes on Ward Radio, I feel like he's just kind of like it can be a little shallow, just kind of like church is right. But like out of the three that are regularly on there, he's clearly the most like level-headed. He puts forth some of the more like common apologetic defenses. I know he's done some work for B.H. Roberts. Like he's definitely top notch. I would probably put him maybe high D, low C. What do you think?
I put him high D.
High D, right over Kwaku.
Yeah.
Brent Gardner.
Oh, he's an S.
Yeah. Probably there. I don't know. What do you think?
You choose. I'm in Helaman right now with his 6-volume series on the Book of Mormon, and it's good stuff. Yeah. Really good stuff.
Yeah, he is his research is just unbelievable. His interviews with Stephen Murphy are unbelievable. All he just needs some like Heartlander salespeople to take his stuff and just plow it all over the internet. They just need to like make graphs. They need to make maps. They need to make charts. They need to make graphics, and they just need to just harass people. Just boom, like the Heartlanders do. Just slap it all over the internet because his stuff is just so freaking good.
Yeah.
It's a pain stuff, that you can only find it in like 500-page books, but like
yeah. His the most fascinating is his connecting Teotihuacan with the Gadianton robbers.
Yes.
That is some fascinating stuff. Some really good convergences there.
Yeah, and he doesn't do any like nonsense, like the Heartlander like crosses on rocks that are clearly fake. Like all of it is like he's using real world peer reviewed research and tying that back into how it can converge with the Book of Mormon. It's very responsible. It's very accurate. I adore Brant Gardner. I think I just wish he had a team of salesmen underneath him to just.
Yeah,
because he's underappreciated because all of his stuff is found in 500-page books. It's not really
and really long presentations on YouTube.
Yeah, it needs to. We need some people to bring it out. Jackson Washburn. For me personally, I really like Jackson Washburn. I relate to practically every single thing he says. It's his brand of Mormonism is my brand of Mormonism. I like it a lot. I'm not as far as progressive as I think he is, but I definitely I really like his brand of Mormonism. It's where I come close to. What do you think? I know you.
It's interesting because I probably view Jacob Hansen the same way that you view Jackson. Jacob Hansen can be a little excessive sometimes, but politically and on social issues, I'm just completely aligned with him, and his brand of Mormonism is my brand of Mormonism. I like Jackson. Like I said, I respect progmos that also believe in the core teachings of the church, like the First Vision and the Book of Mormon, the historicity of the Book of Mormon, and everything. But I respect him. He's intellectually honest, even though I disagree with him politically and on social issues. So I do like Jackson, even though I disagree with him.
Say maybe High C.
He hasn't really put much out lately regarding LDS apologetics.
Yeah, maybe
thing.
Maybe Low C then.
I guess.
Or High D.
He used to be more involved in that stuff, but
yeah, he hasn't as much. But Jacob Hansen, I'm sure this one will be. Yeah, what do you think before I go?
He's done a good job at putting himself out there and debating people. I think we need more of that. We need more debates.
Yeah, that's very true.
I understand why some people don't like him, but there's other things where I'm like, we were talking about that whole thing with Brad Kramer and the whole scandal with him. The people that hate Jacob Hansen were real big buddies with Brad Kramer.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the people that just despise Jacob Hansen were really buddy with this guy. And those of you who don't know who Brad Kramer is and the scandal that's going on with him, just go on LDS Twitter. I'm sure you'll find out what's going on there. But
manipulates women. Well, he was a super toxic online individual who was progressive and trashed on people and a lot of progmos. I hate the word progmo, but I'll use it here. Really related to him, and ex-Mormons really liked him. Turns out he has been manipulating women for a long time. Yeah. Basically a rough overview.
And the thing is, the people that hated Jacob Hansen totally, they completely tolerated and even praised toxic behavior from guys like Brad Kramer, because he was directing all that toxic behavior at people that they hated, conservatives, basically, Trump supporters. So I just a lot of hypocrisy there. So a lot of the criticism of Jacob Hansen I can understand, but the derangement syndrome against him, I don't understand at all.
Yeah, I agree. I don't love the derangement syndrome. Jacob has a lot of good, and for me personally, has a lot of bad. I'm grateful he doesn't go as far as some of the other bully group, that I was talking about, the high school jock group that they do. Like he defends Pastor Jeff. Jacob's very much a decent human being. But just sometimes he can be like this, like little junior high kid, and he's like, "Bro doesn't realize," and I'm like, "Dude, are you
Yeah.
35 or are you 4? Like, bro doesn't realize this, or bro hasn't read this, or oh, this is awkward." Like he's like, I'm like, what? Why? Why do you do that online? It makes zero sense. And the collective witness model I think is nonsense. Personally, I mean, I get behind the logic of it, but he uses it entirely inconsistently. Like collective witness for my conservative views is what I think it more turns into.
But could
It's
you
like,
just say that he's like the model is good and he's just inconsistent with it?
yeah, I'd probably say that. I don't even know if I'd agree with the basis of the model, but as a model, I think it has some value to it. But I just think and like you can point to things prophets have said that make his behavior, atrocious, and he's just like, no, man, I'm online, I'm advocating for the church, it's fine. I'm like, what? Shut up. Like public advocacy. I'm like, that's not a real thing. It's not even real. You made that up to justify yourself. Like yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things I like about Jacob. I just wish he would like quit the junior high nonsense on Twitter, quit the junior high nonsense on Facebook, and just like stick to like debating people. Like when you talk to Jacob in person or like over like a video, he's a really cool guy. Like, and he's enjoyable to talk to. But then you go on Twitter and it feels like you're arguing with a 13-year-old who just got a phone for like 3 days ago and has been, trying to be cool to his friends. Like it's just like, like you have kids, dude. Why are you acting like this online? Like, what if your kids scroll through and like my dad's a freaking 13? Like, oh, I don't know. I have a lot to say about Jacob's Twitter nonsense and it drives me crazy. But as an apologist, Jacob's really good, and honestly, eventually he could be up here good. But I think right now I'd probably put him BC area. What do you think?
I put him in B.
Put him in B, probably
Yeah.
right above Xander. Probably
He's
above
about
Roper.
to debate Trent Horn in August, so
Yeah, that'll be good.
on the Book of
That'll
Mormon.
be real good.
Trent is a pretty formidable debater, but the thing is that I think a lot of those Catholic apologists, their blind spot is Mormonism. They don't,
Oh yeah.
because I've seen
If
what
Jacob
Trent has
does
to
it
put
right,
up.
Jacob could cook. If it's on the Book of Mormon, if Jacob does it right, he'll cook him. Like
Yeah,
the Book of Mormon is really easy to defend, depending on how you defend it. If you defend it as like a very like perfect, literal, everything translation, then you're going to get smoked. But if you defend it as like Joseph was just given the gift to translate and he's translating it, meaning Joseph is and not God, it's the easiest thing ever to defend. And then it takes away all your opponent's weapons. And then you just, yeah. Yeah.
but if you
I
bring
hope,
up something like Nahum with someone like Trent, who I don't think is familiar with Nahum,
yeah.
um, like there are some sophisticated arguments you can make against it, but I don't think Trent is familiar with those arguments. And so if Jacob
Nope.
brings up Nahum, that's gonna definitely look like a bullseye against Trent.
You bring up
Um,
like the top 7, 8 evidences. Like, what is Trent going to do? He's not going to do a thing. Like, there's no way he can counteract like all the old world convergences, new world convergences, the authorship, the textual evidence. Like, if you just slam that all in a 10-minute opening statement, my boy, he's not going to be able to do nothing. Like, yeah, I trust that Jacob will do a good job because he always does a good job in debates. But I just hope I
yeah,
hope his defense is good. I'm not worried about the offense at all. I think his offense will be incredible. I just hope the defense is
yeah,
what it
especially during the
should be.
cross examination. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I've seen what Trent has to put out about our faith, and I haven't been impressed. Like when he was talking about someone dying for the faith, like he said, the apostles, they died for their faith, they were martyrs, but Smith died in a shootout. And I'm just like, really?
Okay.
Like he died in a shootout? You make it sound like he was in a bar and like they had a shootout at the OK Corral. Like the only reason he had a gun was because someone sneaked it into the jail for him, and he was surrounded by 100 people. And he was in
Yeah.
prison, unjustly imprisoned because it wasn't for the inciting a riot. That was dismissed. It was all because of treason, which even Governor Ford admitted was a ploy to get him out of Nauvoo so he wouldn't be protected and so they could kill him easier. But yeah, so just downplaying the persecution that Joseph Smith suffered, and that just really bothered me. But
yeah. All right. Timber.
Nice guy. Really nice guy.
Nice guy. Very kind. when the Jubilee was rough, I'll be honest. I was not impressed with practically anything Timber had to say, unfortunately. Well, I think it was good to have him there. He's unique perspective, but the
thing is, like,
I think he's new to this.
On Ward Radio, you could tell that he knew about the state of the literature on mental health and LGBTQ members of the church. And he could have challenged John Dehlin on that, but he didn't.
And maybe they cut it out, that could be a thing too.
Maybe, but like, it didn't seem like he tried to challenge him at all.
Yeah.
There was one part where he said, "That's not true." And then John's like, "Well, I'm an expert. I published on this." Like, he kind of just shut him down. And that's the thing. When I say Timber's a nice guy, I think that kept him from being able to defend the church, because he wasn't willing to assert himself. Because I can tell you right now, if I was there, I'd be like, "No, John, shut the hell up. You had your turn. Like, now let me refute what you just said." Like, I would not have been nice in that.
And I've seen Timber, like, what was it with the recent, I will probably get to this more with the Sticks of Joseph, but when like the fake golden plate nonsense came out, and like he was like promoting it like nobody's business, and I was just really? Okay, buddy, you got to have the ability to like recognize a hoax. Like, that's just apologetics 101. Like, you gotta just. So I don't know. I'd probably throw Timber probably right here. I think he has potential to get up there if, a little longer, more time in the scene, a little more informed. He can get up there, but definitely put him over Miss Smith.
I would put him in D.
Put him in D?
Because I think putting him with Heartlanders and Seer Stone Deniers is an insult to him. He's definitely. I think he is one. I think
he is a Heartlander.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just throw him there.
I don't think he's a Heartlander. I didn't get that vibe from him. But.
Maybe he might not be. I don't know. I'd have to look more. I thought I saw something about it, but okay. Tim Ballard.
Why is he even on there?
he's written books at Deseret Book. He's an apologist.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, he's definitely tried to defend his church. Did you hear that he left the church or something? I thought like he became Catholic or whatever.
I've heard rumors about it, but man, what a grifter! Like, I can't believe that I actually put my trust in him.
He's a POS dude. Like, yeah, we've talked about him. He's a bad dude. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Tariq de Leclerc. I think that's how you say it. What do you think about him?
He wrote a response to the CES letter a while back. His output on Mormonism hasn't been a ton lately.
He's very much he's good at evolution.
Yeah.
He defends evolution very, very intelligently. That's I don't
put him in B.
I've heard I'd probably put him by Jackson.
Okay, yeah, just because of his output, but
yeah, his output, and I just like he advocates a lot for like the atheist perspective that we're just chemical reactions.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of advocates for that and trying to find a way to make it work within Mormonism, and I don't really like that. I don't like the idea.
I think his rationale is that Mormons are materialists because Joseph Smith taught that spirit is matter. It's just made of a finer matter that we can't see. So that's just basically materialism right there.
Yeah.
That, which makes sense. I don't know, but just makes me uncomfortable because usually in the context of materialism, it usually leads to like atheism.
Yeah. It's unique for sure. Patrick Mason.
He's one of those progmos that I respect. He's like with Don Bradley or Jackson Washburn. He's done some good work on the history of violence within Mormonism. But I would put him in A, not S.
Probably there. Yeah. Yeah, right there. Looks pretty good. I think I like his podcast with Mormon Stories was really good and really bad at the same time. It's hard to explain. like a lot of the things he said, like I listened to that podcast and I came out with incredible insights and like spiritual tips and insights and like, parting like words of wisdom. But when it came to like actual like defending the church and putting forth like evidence and arguments, nothing good really came out of his mouth during the podcast series. So like, have you seen?
No,
Did you watch it? The Mormon? No.
I don't watch Mormon stories much. The only thing I've watched from Mormon stories is the episodes that John did on satanic ritual abuse, which was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
We had a few clips of it in our Jubilee episode, but
Yeah.
those are actually some pretty good episodes. Probably the most profound thing that I've heard Patrick Mason say is that the twin projects of Mormonism are Zion and exaltation. Like if you could just boil down what the goals of our religion are, it's those two things. Because Zion is making the world a better place in the here and now, and exaltation is about the afterlife.
Yeah.
And you don't want to put too much emphasis on one or the other. You got to be able to find a balance, and I just thought that was a really great way to think about our faith.
Yeah. Mason's one of those people where it's like the polar opposite. Like when I listen to like some of Jacob Hansen's stuff and Dan Ellsworth and Quick Media and some of these other guys, like it makes me like dislike the church. Where I listen to like Patrick Mason, Jackson Washburn, Stephen Murphy, and any of the guys, most of the guys up on S tier, like it makes me love the church. It's like the polar opposite. Like every time I listen to Patrick Mason, I'm just like, I really love being a member of the church. Like I feel like this is where I want to be. Like I never question my belief in the restoration, but sometimes like I get frustrated with like the church as like a general church.
Yeah.
But like Mason just makes me love the church, love the general, love the local. Like it just like listening to people like him. Yeah, that's why. So I like guys like him quite a bit.
He's probably probably a modern Eugene England. Do you know much about Eugene England?
No, I don't know anything about him.
He was a progmo back in like the 70s, 80s. But he did a really good job at making people love the church.
Yeah.
He has an article called why the church is it's called Why the Church is as True as the Gospel. You should read that. Because a lot of people say the gospel is true, but the people aren't or whatever. But he says he argues that the way the church is structured is inspired as well, because it places us in situations where like we don't get to choose like what ward we're in. We don't get to choose our congregation. We are stuck with the people that live in our ward, and we have to learn how to be tolerant and loving of them. But the way he puts it is just amazing. And so Patrick Mason, I think, is within that same spirit. Both of them, Eugene England and Patrick Mason, I would not agree with them politically, like probably polar opposites. But somehow they managed to make a conservative like me love the church from what they say.
Yeah.
So
I would check out two Eugene types England. Of like, yeah, progressive Mormonism can have two types. Like you have the progressive Mormonism that kind of makes you hate the church, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of like the Calvin Burke disgusting, progressive side of things. But like the beautiful side with the Patrick Mason, or in my opinion, the Jackson Washburn, it just makes me just fall in love with the church when I hear them speak. So I really like it. A lot of what they have to say. All right, next, this guy, Rod Meldrum. Right about there. Right about there.
Right along with the Heartlanders.
Yeah. His DNA nonsense he needs to be locked in prison for that stuff, man. The amount of damage that he's done to like people in the church who will come and be like, DNA evidence, Hebrews, like, look at this. And I'm like, why aren't you talking about this bridge?
Look at this haplogroup.
Look at this haplogroup. Like, it's just like you need to be locked away, my man, for what you've done to our church because of this nonsense. Like, he is a salesman who just sold some snake oil, man. It's just it's lunacy. It deserves no credibility. It deserves to be laughed at. He needs to repent and come to Jesus. That's what Rod Meldrum needs to do, man.
Yep.
It is, yeah. Um, Brian Stutzman. I don't like Brian. What do you think?
Um, his work lacks the rigor that a normal historian requires, but he's still done some good work on Joseph Smith's prophecies, and he's done a good job at debunking the whole "who killed Joseph Smith." Like he's pretty, he's very well versed in LDS history, but he definitely his biases shine through. That's why I'd put him in B.
In B, I
Yeah,
put him up. I have him in F in my own list, but
really.
yeah, maybe right there. Oh, right there.
His scholarly output is pretty good. Like he's done some good work on Joseph Smith's prophecies. Have you read it?
Oh, no, I don't want to. The interactions I've had with him in Thoughtful Saints, I refuse to read anything this man will read ever.
Oh
This
well,
man,
he's. I think his scholarship is different from the way he presents himself online. He's a really smart
the
guy.
way he interacts. All right,
And
we'll put him in B.
Robert Boylan has recommended his work on Joseph Smith's prophecies. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll throw him in B, but I'm not a fan of the dude. Um, Ryan Dahl, that's his name. I forgot his name for a second.
I don't
He
know much
does.
about him.
Have you ever read the articles on Evidence Central?
Yeah.
Evidence. So that's him. He
Oh,
writes
okay.
those. So those are good.
Those are good. Yes.
Those are like nil, like up there with him good. Like they're really good articles. I don't know how much original research he does, like compared to nil, but his ability to like present information over written, which I wish those were turned into videos, but that's a different story. But his ability to like present written information is really, really good. I'd throw him at least up to A, maybe S. I don't know. What do you think?
I'd put him in A.
A, probably. Yeah, maybe there. Right there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with that. Sherry Dew.
Sherry Dew.
Sherry Dew. She's an
Uh,
apologist. She writes books. Prophets can see around corners.
she's an apologist.
Yeah, she writes. I mean, she writes books defending the church. Like she's not a general authority. So, and I didn't include any general authorities on the list. So she's
What
the head
has
of
she
Deseret
written?
book. Prophets can see around corners, and then she wrote the biography on President Nelson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her. You make the choice.
Um,
Okay.
I don't. Her book, Prophets Can See Around Corners, goes against everything I believe. Like, it is just like not that I don't believe that prophets can have insight, but like the way she presents it and the way she markets prophets as if they're like they know what's coming constantly and like they're just getting pumped out. Like God is just literally just feeding them revelation. Like it's just like a bike pump, just like
Yeah.
I'm not. I think that is a horrific thing to teach the youth of the church. I think it is a faith crisis 101. Like that is how you have a faith crisis, is teaching that stuff. So,
Hmm.
David Alexander.
That guy has a lot of boomer energy, I'll tell you.
This dude is crazy. I admire his passion, but this dude is crazy. Like his like harassment of Pastor Jeff and then like anybody else too. Like he just will go off on people.
Yeah.
And like I just I don't know.
I've only seen like a few minutes of any of his videos and I can't watch the rest. Just again, like tons of boomer energy.
Just like sitting in his trailer, just
Yeah.
yapping. Dude just yaps for hours on end.
And with the information that's come out about him lately, I don't want to say he's insincere, but he needs to be in the church a little while longer before he has my trust.
Yeah.
Because he's been a part of a bunch of different religious groups, and so I need to know that he's not just being a grifter and trying to gain prominence within another community. He's not just another John C. Bennett. type of thing.
Yeah.
So not writing him off, but I definitely don't care for his content, and he needs a little more time before he gains my trust.
Yeah. Anthony Sweat.
Don't know much about him.
He's good. He's real good. Probably A, I would say. Like his book, his YouTube series on Doctrine and Covenants Central on YouTube that goes over the restoration, probably one of the best YouTube series out there. It's like 23 episodes, 24 episodes long. Like practically everyone should watch it. It's basically just a BYU class on YouTube. And it's really, really insightful. It's nuanced. It's not like it's transparent, but it's also not like critical of the church at all. Like it's very passionate. It's very kind. His books, Seekers Wanted. His books on the endowment and the covenants are incredible. They're some of the best-selling books at Deseret Books. So I definitely would probably throw him. Probably right there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got good stuff. Jackson Paul. Is that Jackson or is this? Which one's Jackson and which one's the other one?
Oh yeah, both. Let's just do the Paul brothers together because I don't think you can really differentiate differentiate their contributions.
Yeah. What are you thinking? I know what I'm thinking. What are you thinking?
D.
D. Okay, D. I was thinking F, but I can respect D.
Ooh.
Throw them in. They have good setup. They have good equipment, but their ability to push back, analyze, they're the opposite of Stephen Murphy. Stephen Murphy has pretty low quality equipment, but he has incredible interviews. These guys have great equipment. Awful. It's just I'll watch their videos and I can't get past 10 minutes because I'm just there is just nonsense coming out of this dude's mouth and nobody is saying anything.
Well, I really like their interview with Mike Day.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I think that's his name, Mike Day. It's really good. He goes over how Jesus was removed from the Old Testament type of thing, based off of Margaret Barker's scholarship.
Yeah. Their interviews with the Heartlanders, though, bad news.
I don't watch anything with Heartlanders. I don't think.
Yeah, they spoke at the Heartlander conference and stuff. It's just bad news, man. And it just stinks because they have so much potential. If they want, I would love to have a conversation with them to help them kind of see where they're getting duped at, because they have so much potential to do a lot of good, and they've just aligned with just the slimiest of the people when it comes to the online space. And when the Golden Plates hoax came out, they were the ones who promoted that big time. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was the fakest thing ever. And they made this huge video basically, and it's people online on Facebook. Rarely do I see LDS community stuff come up on my Facebook personal page that's not by apologetic friends. But I had friends sharing this from high school, and I'm no, this is not the thing that's making waves right now. Please stop. So they promoted this video, and then it's an obvious, and I have used the word obvious fraud, and they get mad at that. Brad Whitbeck has gotten mad at me for saying that, but it's it was very, very obvious. You find, I don't even need to go into the details on why it was so obvious. Jasmine has a video on TikTok or on YouTube. You can go and watch it. It's clear. It's it's night and day. It shouldn't even be up for debate. But the fact that they promoted that so hard and sold the crap out of it, and then even after it was exposed, they continued to be well, it's not obvious, but it might be fake. We're just going to have to take time and see. It's no, we don't need to take any time. It's fake. Don't even spend 1 second hoping about it.
Yeah.
It's just their ability to analyze accuracy and academically engage with things is zero. And so
at least I know they're Heartlanders, but they've invited guys like Brant Gardner on. So
which is good. That gives them the props. They've had the guys on, and it's just unfortunate because their audience will hear the Heartlanders and they're the salesmen. They just they know how to sell it, and then Brant Gardner will come on, who's a little boring, and they'll be this is nonsense. It's just it's just salesmanship. But all right, Skylar. Is it Sorensen? Why did I forget his last name? Skylar Sorensen. What do you think about him?
I like him. I like him a lot.
I like him too.
I don't think I don't think Preston. I'm not sure what happened with Preston. He kind of just left.
He pieced out.
They had a good podcast. They represent the more orthodox, conservative LGBTQ perspective, and I think they do a good job of it.
Yeah, I like Sky. He's empathetic. He's intelligent. I think he has, like, when you compare him and Timber, I think Sky has a lot of the better qualities. He's more informed. He's more knows what he's talking about. I've enjoyed the stuff he says. I disagree with him on quite a few things, but I still think he defends his position pretty well. I'd probably put him somewhere in C.
Yeah.
What do you think? Probably just above Gregory here. Sarah Allen. Anything to say about Sarah?
She's put out the most extensive and best response to the CES letter out there, and a letter to my wife.
Yeah.
She should do LDS Discussions next. Mike from LDS Discussions.
Somebody needs to do it because I wanted to for a long time. I'm probably not going to do it. I don't like this community that much. But somebody needs to do it. Sarah would be a good one to do it. I think I don't love Sarah's writing style. Sometimes it comes across as a little bit cocky to me, like the way she'll rebuttal thing. Have you read her reply?
A little bit of it. I'm waiting for it to come in book form, but
yeah, that'd be nice. An audiobook would be really nice too if she could find a way to put that out, or somebody, or just have AI read it. I don't know. But it's a good reply. It's really extensive. And it's good for research, but if somebody's going through a faith crisis, I would not send them to Sarah Allen's reply. I'd probably even still to this day, I'd probably send them over to Jim Bennis before I'd send them to Sarah Allen's, even though Jim Bennis is outdated, because somebody's going to get, you can get turned off a little bit by Sarah in some of the arguments that she makes. And also some of them are she'll just kind of post, she'll be like, yeah, this isn't an issue, and then post a link to something and then move on. Mm-hmm. She doesn't it's not as personable. It's not as real. It kind of feels it feels like it was written as a chore versus Jim's. It felt like it was written as a passion project,
Right.
So that's a little bit of my thing, but Sarah's clearly very intelligent. I just wish she was a little more, she's with that group online that, they act like the high school jocks. Yeah. And I don't love that, but
the Me, Myself, and I show is pretty good.
I haven't listened to it yet. I haven't. Is it? Do you like it?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, I need to listen to an episode. It doesn't seem like the kind of stuff I'd like, but maybe if I'd give it a shot, I'd like it. But
I'd put her in B, maybe A.
B.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, right there. It's good. Spencer Marsh.
Haven't heard anything from him lately, but I know that he's still contributing stuff to Fair behind the scenes, though, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And if you read Fair articles, practically most of them are written by Marsh.
Oh, really?
Wow. Most of them. We're talking, I don't know what he told me, but the number he's written is it was over 100, I believe. It could have been upwards of 1,000. I'm not sure, but he's written a ton of articles. It is an absurd amount. If you go on Fair's website and anything written between 20, I think it was 17, 18, 19, and 22 is basically him. And really good articles too. The KJV one that he released just a year ago, unbelievably good, really good depth in it. If Spencer is active, I think he's right here by Boylan. Because he's not active, I'd put him probably by Allen here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's B.
B.
I wish he would participate in more debates. I think he'd do well.
Yeah. And then for me, I haven't posted a video in 6 months, but I think I agree with the things I say. So I'd probably, if it was me picking me, I'd probably put me right there. Probably right there. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. If I was active, I don't know. I'd put me up a little higher, but I'm not active right now.
Back when you were just like stitching Exmos left and right,
like every day, like I was just grinding. Oh man, I was toxic, but it was a good time, man.
Just getting into spats with the worst people.
Dude, literally, like people who crawled out of the human trash can and just started making TikToks, or the people I was beefing with, like, yeah, those were the people, like, just garbage human beings. Like, not all of them. Like, a lot of them were good people. I got to go back and, like, a lot of them were good people, but there were a handful that were just straight garbage, and like yeah. I'm probably gonna have to cut most of that out, but that's where.
Just cut her name out, and then you won't.
just just bleep her name out. I don't want to. That's a can of worms I do not want to reopen. Do you want me to add your photo in here, or are you good?
If you can make it quickly,
I can do it pretty quickly. Where? Tell me where you would rank yourself.
I don't know. I think the stuff that I talk about is like, isn't addressed enough in LDS apologetics. It fills a niche, but I don't do it frequently enough for me to be ranked very high. So I'd put myself in D as well. But you can have the final say in where I go.
There you go. Okay, now we got to consolidate a little bit. So if you have any ones you want to keep in S tier for sure, but as of right now, we got to move a couple people down just to make sure everything's more even. There we go. I got to bring you down. Got to bring Xander down a little bit. Then we got to probably move these people up. And there we go. Now we're even. Sweet. Beautiful list. Anything you want to change there?
No.
No, looks pretty good.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
All right. There's our tier list. We'll see how many apologetic friends I still have after this video comes out. I haven't talked to anyone in like 6 months anyways, so it's whatever. That's our perspective, you know, and I hope to see more people join the online community, and yeah. Any last thoughts before we go?
Yeah, there's some of these people that have the potential to move up quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Except for Tim Ballard.
No, Tim Ballard. Yeah.
Unless he makes some very drastic changes, he's staying there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not moving an inch. So, all right, well, that's our list. I'll post a link to the tier list in the notes so anyone can go and use the template and make their own and see where. I'm sure some Heartlanders will throw Wayne May at S tier, and you know they're allowed to do that, I guess. Yep. So
you're free to do so.
Okay. All right. We'll see ya.